I get along with McKelty well. I see something very special.
I think that McKelty kind of sees that there are two sides to this. I just think she knows more of the truth.
I got an idea. I should clear this with you. We should buy a big house in Flagstaff and they can move there and then we'll help them with the baby. It would be so fun for me to have a home that Tony McKelty could come in. So yes, I have the big dream of a big house with lots of rooms and lots of space, a guest house. And I hope that the place is big enough that everybody could come back.
So as we end our show, very quickly, can you each describe Kody in 3 words?
Just 3.
Yes.
Deadbeat.
Okay.
Dad. Sorry, that's 2, but that can be 2.
Mm-hmm.
Deadbeat dad and oblivious.
Hi friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, and I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. This week on Sister Wives, Kody Brown spoke about how he had a big dream of building a huge house in Flagstaff or buying a huge house in Flagstaff. And he said that he would love to have a house with a guest house and where everyone could come back and see him, which is weird because there's a lot of kids that would never go back to visit Kody or ever stay at his house. And he wants this big house for McKelty and Tony to bring their babies. Meanwhile, McKelty and Tony don't live in Flagstaff. And why would you need a big house just for someone to visit when they could literally stay at a hotel? But I digress. And Kody says that he and Robyn went to go look at a house and he had this great idea of how fun it would be to buy a huge house in Flagstaff. And I'll tell you why this is timely in a second.
And there's a house that Rob and I were looking at, and I thought that would be fun to buy, and we could have some kids or in-laws move in with us.
No, I know. You guys can buy a big house.
You guys would love it.
And we would visit you.
No, you have to have your own life.
So yes, I have the big dream of a big house with lots of rooms and lots of space, a guest house. And I hope that the place is big enough that everybody could come back at the same time if they wanted.
The year was 2022 when he has this conversation because McKelty's babies are literally newborns and they were born in November of 2022. And he's saying that he's looking at houses bigger than what he has in Flagstaff. And his rationalization is because his current house is filled with kids. But, 3 of those are adult children who will eventually move out. But he's not thinking long term or else he's literally never going to let those kids move out. Regardless, it's 2022. He's had 3 wives leave him. He's in nowhere near the financial position to buy this big house. He has not been taking care of his other children. He has been neglecting Savannah. So in the same episode where you hear him talking about the fact that he wants to buy this big house so all the kids can come back, you learn from Janelle, who was at the time still living in Flagstaff, that Kody doesn't see Savannah more than once every few months. And at this point, Janelle did an interview last week and said that Savannah hasn't seen Kody in a year. A year. He has not seen Janelle's children in forever. Like, I'm assuming they saw Kody at the funeral, but it sounds like they didn't interact with him because if Savannah was at the funeral, that means she didn't talk to her dad. So they didn't talk to Kody at Garrison's funeral. Kody's not seeing his kids at all. And he's got this dream of building a big house so adult children can move back in with him. That's not cult leaderish and compoundish. That's just weird. Kody just can't let go of wanting to have the compound, I think, the one house idea. But it's ironic that he would have this conversation because, like I said, the same episode, you hear Janelle talk about how he hasn't seen Savannah. And you hear that Janelle's kids haven't seen him or talked to him. And Christine's kids mostly live in Utah. At that point, they mostly lived in Utah. Gwendolyn lived in Flagstaff and never saw her dad at this time. So he wanted to build this big house or buy this big house, and this was in 2022. So by the fall of 2024, when he put his house on the market, I wonder if his dreams were to buy that big house. Everyone's been talking about how he wanted to buy the big house and he was going to close on a huge house in the Flagstaff area, which, by the way, he hasn't done. And to be clear, the rumors about him buying a larger house came from a Facebook group, unsubstantiated, and are false because they didn't buy a bigger house and they aren't closing on a bigger house. And the close date was supposed to be October 12th. And guess what? Kody didn't close on a house on October 12th, but you know what he did? He got served. Yep, because Christine Brown has thwarted Kody's dreams of that big house. So this past week, Christine and Janelle have been on like a media blitz for the show. It's really strange that this is Kody's show and he avoids doing media interviews. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. He did one with People, but it wasn't filmed. And when it comes to promoting the show, TLC puts Janelle and Christine out there. They don't put out Robyn, Mary, or Kody. It's almost like TLC has a very good understanding and a pulse on who the audience really likes and who they aren't really fond of. As much as Mary has left Kody and, she's changing her tune, she has had a very troubled reputation, not because of Kody, but because of her own behavior on the show and her own actions and the accusations by some of the kids. So Christine was on a podcast on Radio Andy related to Bravo TV, and she was asked by the host about, what would be something that she would call Kody, like how would she refer to as Kody? And she said deadbeat dad and oblivious. Janelle then said that Kody was charismatic. I'll let you hear the clip.
Can you each describe Kody in 3 words?
Just 3.
Yes.
Deadbeat.
Okay.
Dad. Sorry, that's 2, but that can be 2. Mm-hmm. Deadbeat dad and oblivious.
See, I would say he's charismatic. Come on, when he walks into the room, he's very charismatic.
I'm too mad at him right now.
I guess I'm sort of over it. He's charismatic. I do think he is selfish. And I do think oblivious is probably good. Like, he seems to be sort of, I don't know, like the reality is bewildering to him.
Christine is not at a place right now where she's going to say anything positive about Kody. And she's been really diplomatic in her interviews, but this was a turn in the script. And I think that Janelle was actually kind of surprised by it and wanted to redirect it to positive because that's kind of how their show is. At least in the promotion, they try to keep things very vanilla when they're out there, and they try to be very diplomatic. And so for Christine to say that he's a deadbeat dad and that he is oblivious is actually true, right? Because she's literally having to go to court right now and sue him. And the weird thing is that when Janelle says that he's charismatic, her eyes kind of light up. And, there's something to me about Kody, like, with Janelle, she says she's kind of over it, which is strange. I don't know how you could be over it when he's actively continuing to ignore your children and abuse them on television. But that's neither here nor there. She's, again, trying to be diplomatic. But she definitely has this like soft spot for Kody. That's why I think Christine is always like a little bit weary on the show, at least a couple years ago, about Janelle going back, because she has had that soft spot and she has left Kody numerous times in the past, and she has gone back to him because Janelle has said that Kody always knows the right things to say to her to get her to come back. She has literally said those things on the show. I don't think Janelle's going back this time. I want to be clear, but I think that was where the hesitation lays. But the fact that Christine was like, no, I'm too mad at him right now to say anything nice should be a very good testimony to where they're at currently. So I want to talk with you now about what's going on in the court case because last week, it was like the 8th, Kody took his house off the market, okay? And I had mentioned that I believe the house was being removed from the market because of the lawsuit, because there was a stipulation in the lawsuit that was an injunction, basically preventing Kody from selling property. And it specifically says that if the petition involves division of property, personal property, or debts, they must not transfer, encumber, conceal, or dispose of property or the other property unless you have the written consent of the other party or you have a court order, except in the usual course of business or to provide for the necessities of life. So it's in place as long as he gets approval, unless he gets approval. Kody has not sought approval from the court to sell his house, and I can guarantee that Christine is not going to agree to let him sell his house, because it's probable that if he were to sell his house, he would want to be using that money for proceeds for whatever it is, buying a bigger house, his dream, right? Well, he took the house off the market on the 8th. And I said that I think there's something happening because Janelle and Christine were in Arizona and they were talking about how they were in Sedona, which isn't very far from Flagstaff. And they were doing some sort of like getaway with Gwendolyn and Gwendolyn's wife, Bea. And Janelle was there and Christine was with David and Truly was there. And so I speculated that this visit to Flagstaff or to Sedona seemed to coincide with Kody and Robyn taking their house off the market. Okay. And when he was served, he would be served with a copy of the complaint and also the injunctions, along with the requirements for classes that he has to take. Okay. So when he's served at that point, then he is legally bound by the court and he is no longer able to dispose of assets. So I said that I suspected that while he hadn't been served formally and it hadn't been noted in the system, that something would get updated probably soon. And it did. On Friday, an attorney filed a notice of appearance for a limited appearance of counsel on the 13th. I'm guessing it was probably filed late Sunday night so that it was in the system for Monday morning, or it could have been filed on Friday evening and they put it in on Sunday night. I don't know, but he hired a lawyer. And so he is now represented in the case by Rosamond Blakelock, and Christine is represented by an attorney named James Woodall. And now that he is served and has a representation of an attorney, he is bound by the court. So Kody cannot do anything with any of his property whatsoever as long as he doesn't have court approval. The only way that he would get approval is if he and Christine come to an agreement and she says, yes, this is okay, or a judge says it's okay to sell the property. So he can file a motion to I want to sell my house, right? And then Christine's attorneys would have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want you to sell your house. And here's why. Okay. He would have to have legal reasons to sell the house. And the stipulation is that it has to be for necessities of life. The necessities of life do not include cashing out your equity and trying to run. You know what I mean? Just saying. So Kody was served last week. It sounds like he was served when Christine was in town, and it's likely that it was when he saw Truly. And so for Christine to then say publicly that she believes that Kody's a deadbeat dad, it sort of tells you what's at stake here. And the facts are that she's looking for financial payment and financial reimbursement for the care of her children. An interesting tidbit, and this can be a clue into Kody and his current financial position, but rather than hiring an attorney to cover the entire case and to do full representation, which means the attorney will manage the case and file the documents and proceed in the litigation for the client, Kody is utilizing a option for attorneys, which is called limited legal help. And what this is it's known as limited scope legal representation or unbundled services. It's an agreement between a lawyer and a client that the lawyer will provide specific services for a predetermined fee. For example, they could agree that the lawyer will only advise the client about the strength of the case, or help draft a document, or review a document the client has drafted, or coach the client for a negotiation, or help with the discovery process, or coach the client for a hearing, or appear in court on behalf of the client for one hearing only, or any combination of those kinds of services. Someone that would be doing limited legal help or limited scope representation would be concerned about the cost of the overall legal case, and it helps them reduce the fees of the case by doing a lot of the legal work themselves. And then the lawyer is there for the purposes of limited representation. So in this case, like I gave you some examples, but in this case, what it could mean is that they will file documents for Kody on his behalf. So Kody might draft it, they might review it, and they might file it for him. Or they might go to court for him and represent him at a hearing or multiple hearings. But the point is that the agreement is predetermined as far as how much help this attorney will give them, and the cost is fixed based on what the attorney agrees to help with. And Kody's basically agreeing to do a lot of the work on his own. In a complex child custody case like this, custody cases can be very expensive. Legal and civil litigation is very expensive. I have experience of my own with civil litigation, and it's not cheap. I have never chosen to use limited legal representation because it puts a lot of stress on you to manage the case. The benefit of hiring a lawyer and paying for them to do the work is that all you're doing is helping the lawyer by providing them the documents that they need, the discovery documents that might be requested, giving them feedback and knowledge about the dispute at hand, providing the context, going to and being represented at depositions. In my opinion, you're set up for success when you have competent lawyers that are doing the fight for you, and that you can then rely on the lawyers to do what they do best. I feel like for me, and this is just my opinion, I would have absolutely no way of understanding how to draft a motion or a injunction or seeking like a motion to compel or a discovery request. Or there's so much that goes into cases, like the complaint is just the first part, right? The complaint is like, this is what we're arguing over. And then you have to provide evidence for it. So that's where you have to provide bank statements and bank records and taxes and medical bills and statements that show what the costs are. You have to show what your income is. There's going to be probably text messages, phone calls, maybe interviews with Truly and Isabel. There could be depositions brought in. And so it can be very expensive, but a competent lawyer is there to help you through that process. And legal cases can take years. I mean, y'all, I have been in a legal battle since April of 2022, and it won't get to a point of probably going away until the beginning of next year. 3 years. 3 years. So Kody's in for the long haul in this situation, and it's not going to be cheap. Christine has hired an attorney for the entire case. Like, she doesn't have limited representation. Kody does. He's concerned about cost. That should tell you a lot of where he's at right now. Why is he selling his house? Because he's concerned about cost. Why is he, trying to get away and run? Cost. He was very concerned about the cost of attorneys. Kody had all the time and the money and the resources to buy ugly art and jewelry and cars and vehicles and expensive knickknacks for Robyn. But when push comes to shove with taking care of his kids and having funding for health insurance, he doesn't carry it. Having money for surgeries, he won't pay for it. Having money for attorneys, he can't afford it. They sued the state of Utah, and their attorney was pro bono. They paid $0 for that lawsuit. They couldn't even afford an attorney to sue Utah. And now Kody is using a lawyer for limited representation. And the lawyer here that he's hired, now take this with a grain of salt. She's been a lawyer for like 31 plus years, and she doesn't have very good reviews when you search her name. Christine's lawyer has also been involved in some controversies. No lawyer is perfect. But the most common criticism for his attorney is that she is unprofessional, condescending, and pretentious and rude to clients. So I don't know what that, maybe Kody will be fine with that because he's all of those things too. But Christine has brought in the big guns. Kody has brought in the small guns. And I think when you look at the differences here, Christine is set up much better for success in the long run than Kody. And that is why his house is off the market. So his caviar dreams of buying that big house in Flagstaff have been crushed by Christine, who is going to hold the deadbeat dad accountable. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Bye, everyone.